There's a silent war happening inside most of us, not because it's imaginary, but because we've gotten used to it, waking up drained, going through the motions, struggling to feel anything real. We blame work, our phones, the chaos around us, but deep down, we know it's not just out there. Something inside us is out of balance. And no, you're not lazy or broken. You're just tired in a way that rest alone doesn't fix. But the answer isn't more noise or more hustle. It's returning to what actually grounds you. Simple, intentional habits that restore your focus, your energy, your sense of self. That's what we're getting into today. 10 powerful ways to reconnect with your core and reset your life from the inside out. These aren't trends. They're timeless practices, anchored in Stoic wisdom and backed by real-life experience. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Today, we take that power back. And if this message speaks to you, do me one small favor. Hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it helps us keep growing this space for real transformation. Let's start where strength begins, within. Let's end the silent war. 1. Move, even a little bit. Some days, even getting out of bed feels like a battle. Not because you're lazy, but because something invisible feels heavy. It's like your thoughts are stuck in molasses, and every little task takes double the energy. That sluggishness isn't just in your mind. It's in your body too. And when you're caught in that space, the last thing you feel like doing is moving. But ironically, that's when movement becomes the medicine you need most. It doesn't have to be intense. Nobody's asking you to hit the gym for an hour or run a marathon. This isn't about sculpting your body. It's about reconnecting with it. It's about understanding that movement, any movement, isn't just physical, it's chemical. It rewires your brain, opens up mental space, and starts to clear that emotional fog you've been living in. In fact, simple physical activity is one of the most direct ways to increase dopamine, the very chemical that sparks motivation and joy. Think about that for a second. Your body isn't a machine that just carries your brain around. It is your experience. It stores stress, tension, even memories. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And when you resist movement, especially in low moments, you're actually holding on to emotional blocks your body is begging to release. Movement is one way your nervous system says, "I'm ready to let go." Now let's strip away the pressure. Movement doesn't mean performance. It doesn't need a plan, a playlist, or a fitness tracker. It could be you pacing barefoot on your porch while the sun rises. It could be stretching your arms above your head while your coffee brews. It could even be dancing, badly, in your kitchen while your favorite song plays. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. It's permission to shift your state, not by thinking your way out of it, but by moving your way through it. Aristotle believed that motion and life were inseparable. Life is movement, he said. He wasn't talking about cardio routines, he was pointing at a fundamental truth. When we stop moving, we stop growing. We become emotionally stagnant, mentally cluttered, spiritually tired. So when you're feeling stuck, don't sit with the stuckness. Move with it. Let the body lead for once. The mind will follow. And this isn't just philosophy, it's backed by hard science. When you move, your brain releases a cascade of chemicals. Not just dopamine, but serotonin, norepinephrine, and endorphins. It's like flipping the circuit breakers in your emotional house. Things begin to flow again. You start to think more clearly. You breathe more fully. The world softens its grip. Even the Stoics, who are often misunderstood as emotionless, were deeply aware of this connection. Cleanthes, one of the early Stoics, was a manual laborer by night and a philosopher by day. He believed in the discipline of physical work as a way to sharpen the mind. The body wasn't a distraction, it was a gateway. Movement wasn't something you had to do, it was something you got to do. Let's not forget Socrates, who famously walked the streets of Athens in search of deeper understanding. He knew that conversation, learning, and even wisdom flowed more freely when the feet were in motion. Plato, his student, built the very idea of the academy around walking and talking. The body in movement supported the mind in contemplation. So the next time your inner world feels jammed, like you're in a fog you can't think your way out of, don't fight it with more thinking. Move, slowly, intentionally, even awkwardly. Let motion shake something loose. Let it remind your brain that you're alive, that you're capable, that you're in control, even if it's just for a moment. You don't need a reason, you just need to start. Because when you're feeling stuck, stillness often makes it worse. And when you move, even a little, you signal to your nervous system, we're not stuck anymore, we're going somewhere. 2. Eat like you respect yourself. There's something oddly comforting about standing in front of the fridge when life feels off. You're not really hungry, you're just searching, maybe for calm, maybe for control, maybe for a moment of comfort in the middle of chaos. We've all been there, eating out of stress, boredom, habit, or just because it's 11 p.m. and your emotions won't sit still. But here's the thing we rarely stop to think about. It's not just our body that's eating. Our brain is too. And our brain is picky. What we feed it matters more than we realize. Dopamine, the chemical that fuels motivation, focus, and emotional stability, is built directly from what's on your plate. Literally. It's not magic, it's biology. Protein-rich foods, healthy fats, leafy greens, berries, and foods loaded with tyrosine. That's the raw material your brain needs to produce dopamine. You give it the right stuff. It thanks you with energy, mental clarity, and emotional steadiness. Now contrast that with the usual suspects: sugar crashes, processed snacks, greasy takeout. Those give you a short-lived high, sure, a dopamine spike. But it's artificial and it fades fast. What comes after is the crash, the slump, the fog, the cravings, the guilt. And then the cycle starts again. You're not broken, you're just caught in a loop that your biology didn't sign up for. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This applies to food more than we think, because most of the time we're not eating out of true hunger. We're reacting to emotions we haven't named yet: anxiety, restlessness, emptiness. Food becomes a band-aid for the things we haven't healed, but a quick fix isn't nourishment, and it definitely doesn't feed your future self. The Stoics were onto this thousands of years ago. Seneca warned us about overindulgence, saying that anything done in excess clouds judgment and weakens will. He wasn't just talking about alcohol. He was talking about any behavior we use to avoid being fully present. Yes, even reaching for that third cookie when we're feeling low. To the Stoics, discipline wasn't about restriction. It was about freedom. Freedom from being controlled by impulse. And look, eating with intention doesn't mean turning into a nutrition robot. It's not about obsessing over macros or jumping on the latest diet trend. It's about paying attention, asking, how do I want to feel after this meal? Do I want to feel grounded, energized, clear-headed? Or do I want to feel bloated, sluggish, moody? Every meal is a choice, not just about taste, but about how we want to show up in our life. Aristotle believed that virtue is found in the balance between extremes. Not too much, not too little. The same applies here. You don't need to cut everything out. You just need to add more of what helps, more color, more nutrients, more real, whole food that supports your brain and nervous system. Because what you eat becomes how you think. What you eat becomes how you feel, and there's something empowering about that. You realize that food isn't just fuel, it's information. Each bite sends a message to your brain. You're safe, you're supported, you've got what you need. That kind of nourishment doesn't just feed your body, it rebuilds your emotional resilience. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And maybe the unexamined plate is part of that too, because when we slow down and examine what we're reaching for and why, we start making different choices, not out of guilt, out of self-respect, out of alignment, out of the desire to live with more clarity and less chaos. 3. Sleep like your life depends on it, because it does. Somehow, somewhere along the way, we started treating sleep like a luxury, like it's optional, something you get to do after the work's done, after the hustle, after the scroll. We wear late nights like badges of honor and glorify running on empty, as if it's a sign of ambition. But let's be real for a second. You can't out-hustle a fried nervous system. You can't fake energy your body hasn't earned. And no amount of coffee can replace what happens when you actually let yourself rest. Think about it. What's the first thing to go when life gets chaotic? Sleep. And yet, it's the very thing that stabilizes everything else. Your mood, your memory, your motivation. It all depends on quality rest. Without it, your brain chemistry falls apart, especially dopamine, the stuff that gives you drive, focus, and emotional balance. Miss out on deep sleep and you're not just tired, you're chemically off. Your brain's reward system can't reset, and suddenly, even simple things, making breakfast, answering a message, getting dressed, feel overwhelming. Aristotle once said, "It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light." But it's hard to focus on anything when your mind is fogged over with fatigue. When your inner world is scattered, sleep becomes the flashlight. It's the reset button, the behind-the-scenes miracle that nobody sees, but everyone feels when it's missing. Stoicism, too, reminds us to live with intention. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and still made time to reflect and rest, wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. But that privilege begins with preparation. And preparation doesn't start at dawn, it starts the night before. If you want a calm, focused mind in the morning, you have to give it the rest it needs at night." Now let's not complicate it. Creating a sleep sanctuary isn't about buying fancy gadgets or following a perfect routine. It's about boundaries. Cut the noise, dim the lights, put your phone down, let your body shift gears from doing to being. Make your bedroom a signal, not a second office or a Netflix hub, but a space where your nervous system knows, here, we rest. Carl Jung talked about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we ignore or suppress, and lack of sleep is a shadow behavior. We ignore it, downplay it, deny its impact, until it shows up in ways we can't ignore. Irritability, brain fog, anxiety, numbness. Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And sometimes, choosing sleep means facing your soul. It means slowing down, turning inward, and acknowledging that you need something, that you're not a machine, you're human. Plato believed that rhythm and harmony find their way into the soul. That's not just poetry, it's biology. Your circadian rhythm, the natural cycle of your body, is your internal compass. When you honor it, by going to bed at a consistent time, dimming artificial lights, and giving your senses peace, you return to harmony. You begin to feel like yourself again. So if you've been pushing through, ignoring the signs, convincing yourself you'll rest when things slow down, this is your wake-up call, ironically, to go to bed. Because tomorrow's power doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from rested effort, from a mind that's clear and a body that's restored. 4. Get quiet, even if it feels weird. We spend most of our lives running, from task to task, screen to screen, thought to thought, constantly stimulated, constantly on. And somewhere in that chaos, we forget what our own inner voice even sounds like. We think we're escaping stress, but really we're just burying it under more noise. The world keeps yelling and we keep listening. But silence? Silence is where the truth lives, and most people are terrified of it. Let's be honest. When was the last time you sat alone without checking your phone, without planning your day, without trying to use the time wisely? Just sat with yourself, in your body, in your breath. For most people, that kind of stillness feels awkward, even uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's not a sign something's wrong. It's a sign something wants to be heard. We're not just overstimulated, we're overstretched. The nervous system wasn't built to handle constant inputs, and when it's overloaded, your brain chemistry takes a hit. Dopamine, the chemical that helps you feel motivated, focused, and emotionally grounded, starts to crash. Not because you're doing too little, but because you're doing too much without space to reset. Stillness gives you that space. It's not about meditation apps or being some Zen master. It's about creating just 5 minutes of quiet. No judgment, no performance, just breath and presence. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And that's exactly what stillness gives you, a chance to wake up to what's really going on beneath the surface. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in a journal that would later become Meditations, reminded himself, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He ruled an empire, faced wars and betrayals, but still made time every single day to retreat inward. Not to escape life, but to return to it stronger. In the silence, you don't just quiet the world, you start to hear yourself clearly. You hear the tired parts of you that need rest. You hear the cluttered thoughts that need sorting, and you start to realize something important. Stillness isn't emptiness, it's space, and space is where healing begins. Aristotle believed that contemplation was the highest form of activity, that thinking deeply, turning inward, was essential to a good life. And what is contemplation, if not a form of stillness? When you remove distractions, even for a few minutes, your mind gets to breathe. And in that breath, dopamine begins to rise, not from excitement, but from alignment. Socrates built his entire philosophy on the idea that self-examination is the root of wisdom. "The unexamined life is not worth living," he said. But examination requires pause. You can't examine your life when you're constantly reacting. You can't reflect if you never stop moving. Stillness isn't a waste of time, it's the foundation of clarity. And this isn't just a mental or spiritual benefit, it's biological. Studies show that mindfulness and intentional stillness boost dopamine and serotonin levels in the brain. Your body relaxes, your emotional system settles, your decision-making improves. Stillness helps you become a better thinker, a better responder, a better version of yourself. You don't need a mountain retreat. You don't need an hour. You just need a moment, a breath, a break in the noise, 5 minutes of quiet in the morning, a walk without your phone, a moment in the evening where you close your eyes and do nothing on purpose. Because what your mind really craves isn't more input, it's integration, a moment to make sense of everything you've already taken in. Stillness gives you that. It gives you back you. 5. Set small goals and celebrate hard. There's something incredibly satisfying about checking off a task, even if it's something small like drink water or answer one email. that tiny moment of completion. It hits different. It feels good, not just emotionally but chemically. That's dopamine at work. It's your brain's way of saying, yes, this matters, keep going. And the more we learn to recognize and celebrate those little moments, the more motivated we become to keep showing up. Here's the mistake a lot of us make. We wait until the big win to feel proud. We think we'll feel accomplished when we've written the whole book, lost all the weight, built the entire business, healed completely. But our brains aren't built for that kind of long-distance validation. We need micro-rewards. We need signals along the way that say, you're doing it, you're in motion. Carl Jung once said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." That inner necessity, momentum, creation, expression, it's not fueled by perfection. It's fueled by progress, even messy progress, even slow steps, because movement builds belief. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But he didn't say to wait until you are that person to act. The doing is the becoming. And each small, consistent step, each quiet decision to show up, is part of shaping your identity. You don't become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by making one small, aligned choice at a time. Think of your goals like a staircase. You don't leap from the bottom to the top. You take one step, then another, and every step counts. The key is to notice the step, pause, acknowledge it, celebrate it, not with fireworks, but with a simple thought. I did what I said I would. That's how trust is built, not just with others, but with yourself. Aristotle believed that excellence is not an act, but a habit. What you do consistently becomes who you are. But habits don't form from giant leaps. They form from repetition, from reinforcing even the smallest action until it becomes part of your rhythm. And when you track those actions, when you write down what you've done, reflect on it, give it weight, you wire your brain to crave consistency. You teach your nervous system to recognize effort as worthy, not just results. Socrates often questioned people who thought they knew everything but lacked self-awareness. And in our world, one of the most overlooked forms of self-awareness is knowing what you've actually done. It's easy to forget the effort you've put in, especially when progress feels slow. But slow progress is still progress. You're still in motion. And that motion matters more than motivation, because motion creates motivation. Let's get practical. Start keeping a done list at the end of each day. Not a to-do list, a done list. Write down what you showed up for, even if it was just getting out of bed, sending one email, or resisting one urge. It's not about measuring worth, it's about honoring momentum, because every time you recognize what you've done, dopamine flows. Your brain learns, this is good, let's do more of that. Motivation isn't magic, it's a reward system, and you can activate it anytime you choose to notice what's working, what's already moving in the right direction. So don't wait to celebrate until you've reached the summit. Celebrate each step, each breath, each choice to keep going. 6. Play the soundtrack that feeds your soul. There are moments when words fail us, when we can't explain how we feel and thoughts get tangled in our minds. But then a song plays, one we haven't heard in years, and suddenly it all makes sense. Emotions rise, tears fall, or our chest lifts with a kind of strength we didn't know we had left. That's not random. That's music doing what only music can do. Not just filling silence, but translating feeling. Not just noise, but emotional electricity. We often think of music as background filler, something to play while we drive, work, cook, or clean. But music is so much more than that. It's a direct line to your nervous system, a bridge between your conscious mind and your deeper emotional self. The beat, the melody, the lyrics, they bypass logic and speak straight to your chemistry. Music, quite literally, moves us. And dopamine? It listens. Carl Jung once said, "The creative mind plays with the objects it loves." Music is that play. It awakens something childlike in us, something pure and unfiltered. It gives us permission to feel without explanation, to process without thinking too hard, to express what might be too heavy to say out loud. And from a biological standpoint, the science backs it up. Listening to music we deeply connect with activates the brain's reward centers. Yes, including the same dopamine pathways that light up when we achieve a goal, fall in love, or experience awe. But unlike those moments, music doesn't wait for life to line up perfectly. You can access that boost anytime, on demand. That's power. The Stoics, though they didn't study music the way we do today, understood the concept of tuning oneself to a higher rhythm. Epictetus spoke of aligning our actions with nature and virtue, of finding harmony within chaos. And what is music if not organized sound, rhythm made meaningful? It invites us to slow down or speed up, to focus or release, to rise or soften, depending on what we need most in the moment. Plato went even deeper. He believed music had the power to shape the soul. Music is a moral law, he said. It gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination. That's not just poetic, it's profound. Because music doesn't just reflect your mood, it can change it, shift it, elevate it. So why not curate your soundscape the way you curate your social feed or your wardrobe? Build playlists that serve your states of mind. One for energy, one for grounding, one for grief, one for pure joy. Use them like tools, like companions, because sometimes what you need isn't advice, it's a violin, not another solution, but a song that mirrors your current state until it passes. And let's be real, music doesn't require you to explain anything. It doesn't ask you to fix, to solve, to justify. It just meets you where you are. It holds space, and sometimes that's all healing really is, being seen and held by something larger than words. Socrates may not have written about dopamine or playlists, but his call for self-knowledge fits perfectly here. Know thyself. Well, music can help you do that. It reveals your triggers, your desires, your memories. The songs you're drawn to say something about the season you're in. Listen closely. So if you're feeling stuck, flat, numb, don't just scroll, don't force productivity. Press play. Let music speak for you. Let it stir your insides. Let it reconnect you to the version of yourself that feels, that cares, that remembers. Because sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in thinking harder or doing more. It's found in a single song, a single note, a quiet reminder that you're still here, still capable of emotion, still in motion. 7. Protect your energy. Choose better people. There's a certain kind of tired that sleep can't fix, the kind you feel after certain conversations, certain interactions, where you walk away more scattered, more doubtful, less like yourself. It's subtle, but powerful. And no, you're not being sensitive. That drained feeling, that's not just in your head. It's your nervous system sounding the alarm. It's your body recognizing a mismatch before your mind can even explain it. People carry energy. Some calm you, some ignite you, others exhaust you. And if you've ever left a conversation feeling like your spirit just took a hit, you've felt that truth firsthand. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your emotions, your peace. That kind of access should be sacred, earned, not handed out. Carl Jung once wrote, The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That transformation can be uplifting or it can be corrosive. You've probably experienced both. And it's your job to learn the difference, to tune into the conversations that leave you clear and grounded, and step away from those that leave you twisted up and confused. Stoicism is all about protecting your inner citadel, your mind, your judgment, your peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But here's the catch. Those thoughts are often shaped by the company we keep. The people around you don't just influence your choices, they influence your chemistry. Literally. Conversations affect cortisol. Connection boosts dopamine. True companionship increases oxytocin, the bonding chemical that makes you feel safe, understood, whole. So the question becomes, who are you letting influence your internal weather? In a world obsessed with likes, followers, and group chats, we've confused quantity with quality. But one real friend, one person who truly listens, who doesn't compete, compare, or drain, that is more powerful than 20 surface-level connections. Socrates said, "Be slow to fall into friendship, but when thou art in, continue firm and constant." That's the level of discernment we need. Be intentional. Be protective. Your circle is either your sanctuary or your sabotage. Let's be clear, this isn't about cutting people off the moment things get tough. True relationships go through hard seasons. This is about recognizing patterns. If someone consistently drains you, confuses you, belittles your growth, or makes you shrink to feel accepted, that's not connection. That's a contract of self-abandonment, and you don't owe anyone that. Aristotle believed that friendship was one of the highest forms of virtue, not for entertainment or status, but for mutual growth. He spoke of three kinds of friendships, those of utility, pleasure, and the good. Only the third, the good, is based on seeing and supporting one another's best self. That's the kind of friendship worth fighting for. The rest? Appreciate the lesson, then make space for something deeper. Here's the empowering part. You don't just get to choose your circle, you get to be the kind of energy you want to attract. Be someone who lifts without performing, someone who listens without fixing, someone who celebrates others without turning it into a competition. Because energy isn't just something you absorb, it's something you radiate. Plato said that like is drawn to like. Your vibe, your values will attract the right people if you're clear about what you stand for and what you'll no longer tolerate. That clarity starts with self-respect, and self-respect shows up in who you walk with. 8. Let the sun touch you. There's something ancient, almost sacred about standing still under the sun. No agenda, no goal, just being there as if the earth and sky were waiting for you to notice them again. In a world that glorifies speed, productivity, and back-to-back notifications, we forget that our bodies were never designed to live indoors under artificial light all day. We weren't built for cubicles and screens. We were shaped by the rhythms of the natural world. And sunlight? It's not just a backdrop. It's a biological trigger, a healing force. A quiet source of energy we barely even think about anymore. Most of us treat light like it's just something we need to see. But real light, the kind that comes through clouds, trees, and open skies, doesn't just help you see, it helps you feel. Morning sunlight in particular plays a critical role in regulating your circadian rhythm, which affects everything from your mood to your hormones to your ability to focus. Just 5 to 10 minutes of natural light in the early part of the day can significantly boost your dopamine levels, the same chemical that fuels your motivation and emotional balance. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And part of becoming that version of yourself means returning to the rhythms your body was designed to follow. You're not just a mind walking around in a body, you're a system, a living, breathing rhythm, and nothing resets that rhythm quite like morning light. The Stoics, though they didn't have neuroscience to back them, deeply understood the power of nature in restoring clarity. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and student of stillness, often reflected on the stars, the changing seasons, the sunrise. To him, nature wasn't just beautiful, it was instructive. He wrote, "Observe how all things are continually being born of change. And what is morning light, if not the beginning of change? The subtle shift from darkness to clarity, from stillness to motion. Stepping outside isn't about taking a break. It's about remembering your place in something bigger. It's about breathing fresh air that hasn't been recycled through vents. It's about letting your nervous system rest, not by stopping, but by realigning. Because let's face it, the more time we spend behind glass, under LEDs, with screens glowing in our faces, the more disoriented we become. Our biology is starving for a signal that the day has begun, and that signal is sunlight. Plato believed that light was a metaphor for truth. In his Allegory of the Cave, the moment of awakening, the moment of enlightenment, happened when the prisoner stepped out of the cave and into the sunlight. That wasn't just a story about knowledge, it was about presence, about awareness. And today, the cave might be our screens, our to-do lists, our echo chambers of digital noise. Stepping into the light now is as revolutionary as it was then. Even 5 minutes can make a difference. Walk barefoot in the grass, open your curtains, sit by a window and just let the light in. Not for the gram, not for the aesthetic, just for you. Because when your eyes meet real light, not filtered, not flattened, your brain starts waking up in a more honest way. Your body softens, your thoughts slow, and something primal inside of you whispers, "This is what I needed." Socrates taught that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Morning light is a way to build a new emotional baseline, one that doesn't rely on caffeine or constant stimulation, but instead grows from within. It's one of the simplest tools you have, and it's free, always has been. 9. Do what makes you lose track of time. Somewhere along the path to adulthood, many of us made an unspoken trade. We exchanged our passions for productivity, our hobbies for hustle, our joy for just getting things done. And the worst part, we didn't even notice it happening. That guitar gathered dust. The sketchpad got shoved in a drawer. Books we once devoured now sit unread, replaced by endless to-do lists and notifications. It's like we convinced ourselves that if something doesn't make money, solve a problem or get likes, it doesn't count. But let's be real. The things we used to love, they weren't random. They were windows into who we are, and letting go of them didn't make us more efficient. It made us feel emptier, because joy isn't extra, it's essential. That part of you that once got lost in painting, music, building something with your hands, or reading just for the fun of it, that wasn't a phase. That was alignment. Carl Jung said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." That instinct, play, expression, creation, it's not childish, it's healing, it's medicine. And when you tap into it, you enter what psychologists call a flow state. That magical zone where time disappears, the outside world fades, and you become fully absorbed in what you're doing. You're not worrying, comparing, or chasing approval. You're present, fully alive. And guess what? Flow states trigger a natural release of dopamine, the brain's motivation molecule. So while we're out here chasing that high through caffeine, endless scrolling and goal setting, there's a much simpler way. Do what you love, not because it's productive, but because it's you. The Stoics believed deeply in aligning with our nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what you were made to do." He wasn't just talking about duty, he was talking about purpose. Your purpose isn't just in your job title or responsibilities. It lives in what makes your soul feel at peace. And sometimes that peace shows up not in silence or stillness, but in color, rhythm, movement, words, or melody. Plato believed that the arts, music, poetry, creation, were pathways to the soul, that they allowed us to glimpse truth, to express what reason alone could not. And when you look at your own life, you'll see it's true. The moments when you felt most like yourself probably weren't in a meeting or on a treadmill chasing numbers. They were in the quiet, flow-filled hours when your hands were busy and your mind was free. Socrates asked us to examine our lives. And here's a real question worth asking. When did I last do something just because it lit me up? Not for praise, not for profit, just for the spark, the play, the expression. We spend so much time trying to fix ourselves, to grow, to optimize. But what if one of the simplest answers was just returning to joy? And no, you don't have to be good at it. You don't need to share it. You don't need to justify it. You just need to do it. Set aside 20 minutes. Pick up the paintbrush. Dust off the guitar. Open the book. Doodle on a napkin. Build something out of nothing. Let joy have a seat at the table again, not as a reward, but as part of the meal. Aristotle believed that happiness wasn't a destination. It was found in activity aligned with virtue and purpose. Joyful creation is one of those activities. It centers you, it teaches you, it reflects back your own inner world. 10. Let it out. There's a certain kind of pressure that creeps in quietly. It starts with, "I've got this," and slowly turns into, "I can't fall apart." We carry it in our shoulders, our breath, our sleep, always being the one who holds it all together, the reliable one, the strong one. But let's be honest, how often does strong actually just mean silent and exhausted? Because there's a fine line between resilience and running on empty, and many of us cross it without even noticing. We live in a culture that praises grit and grinds endurance into identity, but being constantly on isn't a superpower. It's a slow drain on your nervous system. And stress? If it doesn't have an exit, it settles in your body like a weight that keeps getting heavier. At first it's manageable, then it starts messing with your sleep, your focus, your mood. That's not weakness, that's biology doing what it's designed to do, signal that something needs to shift. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." And when it comes to stress, resisting it doesn't make you stronger. It just makes the explosion louder when you finally hit the wall. Emotional energy doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It hides, it builds, and eventually it finds a way out, often through burnout, anxiety, or even physical symptoms you can't explain. The Stoics were often misunderstood as being emotionless, but that's not the truth. They weren't about suppression, they were about transformation. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, kept a journal not for ego, but for reflection, for release. He knew the weight of holding everything in and the wisdom of making space for honest emotion. He reminded himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." The Stoics gave themselves room to feel, so they could lead with clarity, not chaos. Release doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to wait for a breakdown to deserve a break. Sometimes it's as simple as stepping outside and walking without a destination, stretching your body until the tension says, "Finally." Writing down what's swirling in your head so it no longer takes up space in your chest. Or talking to someone, not for advice, but just to be heard. Plato believed the soul suffered when it was out of harmony with its nature, and your nature, your nervous system, was never built to carry relentless pressure without pause. Rest isn't indulgence. Letting go isn't failure. These are acts of self-respect, anchors that keep you from drifting too far from yourself. And here's what's wild. When you let yourself release, your body doesn't just calm down, it recalibrates. Dopamine, the very chemical that drives motivation and joy, begins to rise again. Your focus sharpens, your breath deepens. You don't just feel better, you become better equipped to handle life. Socrates taught that wisdom begins in wonder. Maybe it also begins in permission, the simple, radical idea that you're allowed to feel, allowed to rest, allowed to say, "This is too much," without it meaning you've failed. So the next time you feel yourself tightening, your jaw, your chest, your mind, don't push harder. Don't bury it. Ask yourself, where can I let this out? Then walk, cry, write, move, pray, sit in silence. Whatever your release is, use it. Because release isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. And healing doesn't always happen in big, dramatic gestures. Sometimes it begins in a breath, a step, a pause that says, "I'm allowed to let go." The world will keep spinning, the noise won't stop, but you get to choose how you show up in it. One breath, one step, one decision at a time. And in those quiet choices, you build strength that doesn't shout. It endures. If this spoke to something in you, there's more waiting. Check out one of the videos on your screen now. It might be exactly what you need next. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of Stoic Journal. Until next time, stay steady, stay present, and keep walking the path.